All right. Welcome back to the Executive Playbook, the show where we go inside the minds of high performing founders, operators, and investors who are building what's next. I'm your host, Jay Twitty. Today, I'm excited to be joined by Lewis Johnson, a leader whose work at Alelo Inc. has transformed many organizations through training, communication, and operating through intelligent avatar based simulations. He brings decades of experience in artificial intelligence, learning science, and cross cultural communication. And he's led teams through some of the most complex evolutions in tech leadership. Lewis is based in LA, and his work has impacted government agencies, global enterprises, and educational institutions alike. Lewis, welcome to the show. Before we dive in, would you mind introducing yourself in your own words as well?
Happy to. So thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here. So as Jay mentioned, my background is in artificial intelligence, conversational AI in particular, and I started in research at the University of Southern California until I decided to transition our technology into a company, Alelo, and we've been continuing to develop products using AI technology ever since.
Awesome, awesome. So, what originally sparked your interest in AI, learning systems and tech innovation?
Well, I was interested in this area for a long time. Back in when I was in college, I was very fascinated by the very early work on machine translation. What got me really interested and on our current path is when I started when video game 3D video game technology began to emerge, and I started to think, well, what would happen if we married video game technology and AI technology so that you could create immersive games where you could talk with the game characters and learn from them. And that's really the genesis of the idea. We've been continuing to develop and improve that basic technology ever since.
Cool. Yeah, yeah, yeah. One of my favorite new movies is Free Guy, where the video game player actually turns out to be a real person. So that makes a lot of sense. That's what interests you. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Could you walk us through the early story of Alelo? What problems you all were trying to solve when you got started?
Yeah, absolutely. So we started out really addressing a challenge from DARPA of how could we, using technology, quickly train people in foreign languages and cultures before overseas deployments. So we created the first immersive games where you had to speak a foreign language to play the game. And actually, we ended up with over 500,000 people who had trained using those training solutions, those training games. We continued with that. Then, when COVID hit and people stopped traveling overseas, then we started looking at, well, where can we apply this technology elsewhere? And we found a lot of application in a range of industries and occupations. And the thing that we're really excited about now is a new AI-based capability we call a content navigator. And think of it as an AI librarian that can help you. If you have a problem, it will try to figure out what high quality content to recommend to you that will address your problem. And this is really addressing a current need. People think they can go to ChatGPT to get answers, but two things. First of all, ChatGPT, it'll give you the answers, but it won't necessarily refer you to the content that that's based on. And even worse, ChatGPT can't really tell the difference between the good and the bad and the ugly on
That's
the
true.
internet.
Yeah,
So we
absolutely.
really saw a need for an AI assistant that could help direct people to the content that's available that they can trust that would address their problems.
Yeah, that's very much a need. I know I use ChatGPT a lot, and I notice those shortcomings that they have when it comes to sourcing the content that they give you out. So that's very important work for sure. What's your day to day look like as the CEO leading this intersection of education and technology and new realms in the AI space?
Well, I mean, a lot of what I do is sales and marketing, of explaining to the market what we do. appearing on podcasts like this, for example.
Yes, sir.
Part of it is listening to the market, understanding what the needs are and what needs are that we uniquely can address. Part of it, is, of course, is fundraising, which is another aspect of sales and marketing. So, and really sort of setting the direction and of the team. Saying what are we going to be focusing on in the near term and in the longer term.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's what I hear from a lot of founders kind of in your space, that it's a lot of working with investors and making sure that the vision goes forward. So that's awesome. So as you are leading these large interdisciplinary teams, on the research and the product development side, what are some of the key leadership lessons that you have learned along the way?
Well, I think part of it is, one thing you have to learn is you can't do it all yourself. Entrepreneurs, when they get started, they have to do it all themselves because they're all that is to do it. But as you go on, you learn to trust your team, learn to know what you should focus on and what the other members of your team should focus on, and then how you work together to move things forward. And I think a part of it also is to develop a culture of innovation, very important for a company to succeed in the long run. That's really, the CEO sets the tone for how the team is going to operate.
Gotcha. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that culture is very important. What are some of the things that you look for when you're hiring your technical talent? As far as you're solving problems with AI in education.
Well, I think part of it is I like to hire people who are smart and are willing to learn new things. And this is particularly important in the area that we're in. And I think the advent of generative AI is a good example of this. Before generative AI, nobody was trained in generative AI. So our team had to learn about generative AI and apply what they'd learned before in other kinds of AI technologies, but now apply it in this new situation. So the ability to learn, the ability to adapt are really important. We also look at what other projects people have worked on and can people apply their experience in previous projects to what we're doing now. I think those are some of the main things. And we look for people who are willing to support the team. Over the years, I've found that people who act kind of like as lone wolves don't really, they may be the smartest guy in town, but if they can't work as part of the team is not going to benefit from their efforts.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, that's very important, especially when you're dealing with a lot of these very very smart technical people. They like to work in a shell sometimes and not really be
That's
as
true.
as team centered as they need to be. What are some of the things that you do to really just create that culture of innovation without burning people out, or making sure that there is that teamwork around?
Well, I try to foster a collaborative, consultative way of working, uh, and really, convey that I'm, interested in listening to what people have to say. It's easy in an organization for the CEO just to tell people what to do, and then they go do it. But an effective, innovative team is one where there's a lot of give and take, and people aren't afraid to tell you if if they disagree with you, and then they should not, and then they should listen when you explain to them why you want to do or why the approach we're taking is the one that we're taking. So I think that is a key part of it, and as a result of this, we've had good, you know, people who stay with us and like the working environment. I think is very important. I think another part of it is having a mission that people believe in. I think this is one advantage of in working in learning development is that and people have told me they've worked on video games, but they much rather be working on something that makes a difference for people, and that's really
Yeah.
what we're all about.
I agree. Yeah, that's very important. Really, really enjoying the work and being a part of meaningful work as well is very important.
Mhm. Yeah.
to building culture. So yeah,
Hmm.
you guys are definitely doing some meaningful work. So I'm sure it's a lot easier for you, with what you're building there than some of the other people like that. So let's zoom out for a moment real quick. Well, what do you see? How do you see AI transforming, the learning and communication landscape over the next 3 to 5 years? What are some of the trends that you're looking forward to?
Well, I think it's going to be a big impact. And, we're beginning to see personalized AI tutors and coaches emerge, and I see this as something that's the reason why I think it's going to have a big impact is just sort of ask yourself the following question: what if it were possible to learn a new skill twice or even 5 times as fast as it is in class? This is now possible. And what that means is that people can easily acquire new skills, transition to new occupations. It will open up a lot of opportunities for people, much more than has been the case in the past. And I think that's just part of it. I think, going forward, we're just going to see more and more effects as this becomes an essential part of the way people learn.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I actually have background in education. That's actually one of the reasons why I was looking to transition, because I just see so many other, more more feasible ways to do learning for people, as opposed to like the general classroom setting that
Hmm.
we've been seeing for the past, however many years, since we've known education. It really hasn't changed much. So now with the invention of AI,
Hmm.
the advent of AI, that we're seeing a lot more opportunities for, specialized learning, personalized learning, things like that. So I really wanted to, start to learn more about it and be able to tap into that for the future. So I completely agree with you there. There's also, the ethical, considerations that come through. Are there any like ethical operational considerations you think more tech leaders should be paying attention to as we grow in AI?
Well, absolutely. I think that the positive outcome is, for if AI empowers people and helps them to learn and develop new skills. The negative outcome will be if it causes people to lose their jobs, cause them to become dumber because they rely on AI to generate answers for them. And it's really up to us who are involved in this technology to make sure that the positive outcome happens and not the negative. And how's it going to play out? We'll see. I will tell you, don't try to ask Chat GPT, because it doesn't know the answer.
I agree. Yeah, that's awesome, man. Well, I really appreciate this conversation. Before we wrap up, Lewis, where is the best place for listeners to connect with you or learn more about what's happening at Alelo?
Well, you can certainly connect with me via LinkedIn. You can learn about the latest things that are going on there. You can also try out one of our content navigators that we created for another podcaster. If you go to drlaura.com, you can basically you can talk to Stacy, who is a content navigator we created. You can describe what problem you're interested in, and Stacy will recommend content that would address your problem. So there's an example. You can try this technology yourself. And by the way, it we would be happy, Jay, to create a content navigator for you, because think about it.
Yeah,
Nowadays, people, they don't, instead of listening to podcasts, they just get a summary from ChatGPT.
hmm,
Whereas our content navigators will actually recommend that you go listen to the podcast that is relevant to the topic that you're interested in. So we think this will actually help improve content discovery, as well as help people find content that's relevant to their needs. So those are a
yeah.
couple of things I would suggest people check out.
Well, definitely, yeah. Content navigators are a new concept for me. I definitely love to learn more about that, and we can definitely, chat about how we could create a content navigator that works for me and my team here as well. Cool, 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 man. So thanks a lot, Lewis. It was definitely great having you. To our listeners, if this episode sparked an idea or helped you think differently about leadership and innovation, go ahead and subscribe to the Executive Playbook wherever you get your podcasts. We'll be back soon with more playbooks from leaders building what's next. Until then, keep executing with vision.